The stars looked the same as they always had, but Admiral Koss knew something was wrong. His massive warship moved through the empty space where the human world called Earth once existed. The Virex Empire had sent him here to claim this dead system for their growing territory. Koss stood 8 feet tall with green scales that reflected the bridge lights. His yellow eyes studied the scanner readings. The human homeworld was supposed to be here, but all he saw was empty space and floating rocks. The other Vrex officers on the bridge whispered to each other in their clicking language. "Admiral," said his second-in-command, pointing at the display screen. "We are detecting unusual energy patterns from the outer edge of this system." Koss turned his large head toward the screen. Strange purple lights danced across the darkness of space. He had never seen anything like it before. The energy readings made no sense according to their instruments. "Could it be some old human technology?" asked another officer. Koss laughed, showing his sharp teeth. "The humans destroyed themselves 300 years ago. Everyone knows they were violent and stupid. They probably blew up their own planet with their primitive weapons." But even as he said this, Koss felt uncertain. The Galactic Council had told many stories about humans over the years. Some said they were warmongers who loved to fight. Others claimed they were too weak to survive in the galaxy. All the stories agreed on one thing: humans were gone forever. Far away from where Koss and his ship floated, beyond the edge of the galaxy where no one ever traveled, a different scene was taking place. On a green world orbited by 3 silver moons, Commander Hyunwoo Park stood in a vast control room filled with holographic displays. Hyunwoo was tall and lean with dark hair and serious eyes. He wore a black uniform with silver stripes that marked his rank. Around him, dozens of human technicians worked at their stations, monitoring signals from across the galaxy. "Commander," said Dr. So-Young Kim, as she approached his position. She was a small woman with kind eyes who specialized in studying alien cultures. "We have confirmed what we suspected. The Vrex Empire has entered the Sol system." Hyunwoo nodded slowly. He had been expecting this day for many years. "What about the other species? Are they still fighting among themselves?" "Yes, sir. The Crystal. People called Zephyrians have taken over 6 of our old colonies. The bird-like Atari are at war with the metal beings called Constructs. Without our diplomatic influence, the galaxy has become much more violent." Captain Taemin Lee joined their conversation. He was a stocky man with quick movements and intelligent eyes. "Our stealth ships report that slavery has returned to many worlds. The Vrex Empire alone has enslaved 3 different species." Hyunwoo felt sadness fill his heart. Humans had worked so hard to bring peace to the galaxy before they were forced to leave. Now it seemed all their efforts had been forgotten. "Sir," said a young technician from across the room, "Admiral Subin is requesting to speak with you." Hyunwoo walked to the center of the control room where a large holographic image appeared. Admiral Subin Kang materialized before him. She was an older woman with gray hair and sharp features. Her uniform displayed the highest rank in the human fleet. "Hyunwoo," she said in a calm voice. "The time has come to begin the next phase. The council meeting is in 2 weeks. Are your reconnaissance teams ready?" "Yes, Admiral. We have been watching them for months. The galaxy has changed much since we left. And not for the better, I assume." "No, ma'am. The species we once called friends now speak of us as legends or myths. Many believe we never existed at all. Others think we destroyed ourselves in some great war." Admiral Subin's expression remained serious. "That might work in our favor. They will be more surprised when we reveal ourselves." "What about the other project? The one Dr. Young-Sik has been working on?" The Admiral's face grew dark. "His deep space sensors have detected movement in the void between galaxies. The threat we warned them about 3 centuries ago is finally stirring. We may not have as much time as we hoped." Behind Admiral Koss, his communications officer suddenly stood up with excitement. "Sir, I am receiving a transmission from Galactic Council headquarters." Koss turned away from studying the strange energy readings. "What do they want?" "They are calling an emergency meeting. All member species must send representatives immediately." Emergency meeting? What kind of emergency? The communications officer looked confused as he read the message again. Sir, it says the meeting is being requested by humans. The bridge fell silent. Every Vrex officer turned to stare at their admiral. Koss felt his blood grow cold. That is impossible, he said slowly. Humans are extinct. Everyone knows this. Sir, the message is being broadcast on frequencies that match old human technology. The Council is taking it seriously. Koss walked to the forward viewing screen and stared out at the strange purple energy that still danced through the empty space. Could there be a connection? Had the humans somehow survived? Set course for Council headquarters immediately, he ordered, and send a message to all Vrex fleet commanders. Tell them to be ready for anything. Back on the hidden human world, Hyunwoo watched as his teams prepared for the most important mission in 3 centuries. Engineers loaded special equipment onto sleek black ships that seemed to bend light around them. These vessels were invisible to any known scanner in the galaxy. The first contact team is ready, Commander, reported Lieutenant Daeho Choi. He was a young man who specialized in secret operations. Ambassador Jaewon has reviewed all the cultural files Dr. So Young prepared. Good. Remember, we are not going back as conquerors. We return as the guardians we always were. Dr. So Young approached with a worried expression. Hyunwoo, I have been studying the galactic news feeds. There are reports of entire star systems going dark near the outer rim. No signals, no survivors, nothing left but empty space. Hyunwoo felt a chill run down his spine. How many systems? 7 so far, all in the same region where our deep space warning sensors were placed. Captain Taemin overheard and joined them. It is starting, isn't it? The thing we have been preparing for all these years. Hyunwoo looked up at the stars visible through the control room's transparent dome. Somewhere out there, in the cold darkness between galaxies, an ancient evil was awakening. The same evil that had forced humanity to abandon their place in galactic society 300 years ago. Yes, he said quietly. The Devourers are coming, and the galaxy is not ready for them. The time for hiding was over. Humanity would have to reveal themselves and hope their former allies would listen. The survival of every living being in the galaxy depended on it. 3 human ships moved through space like ghosts. They were completely invisible to every scanner, sensor, and detection system used by the galactic powers. These vessels had been designed with technology that the rest of the galaxy could not even imagine. Lieutenant Daeho Choi sat in the pilot seat of the lead ship. His hands moved over controls that responded to his thoughts as much as his touch. Behind him, engineer Mira Yoon monitored the advanced systems that kept them hidden from alien eyes. We are approaching the Vrex capital world, Daeho reported, through his communication device. Their entire fleet is gathering here. I count over 2,000 warships. Commander Hyunwoo's voice came through clearly from their hidden base. Can you get closer without being detected? Yes, sir. Our stealth field is working perfectly. They have no idea we are here. Mira looked up from her instruments. She was a young woman with bright eyes who understood technology better than most. People understood their own thoughts. Commander, I am picking up interesting information from their communications. The Vrex are very nervous about something. What are they saying? They keep mentioning the emergency council meeting. Many of their military leaders think the human message is some kind of trick by their enemies. Daeho guided their ship closer to the massive Vrex mothership. It was 10 miles long and covered with weapons that could destroy entire cities. But compared to human technology, it might as well have been made from paper and string. Sir, said Mira, as she listened to more alien communications. The Vrex Admiral Koss is making a speech to his fleet commanders. He is telling them to be ready for war. On their hidden world, Dr. So Young Kim worked with a team of analysts to study all the information coming from the spy ships. She had learned 17 different alien languages during humanity's exile. Her job was to understand how the galaxy had changed. The situation is worse than we thought, she told Hyunwoo as he entered her research center. The Zephyrians have built labor camps on the worlds they took from us. They are forcing smaller species to mine crystals for their technology. Hyunwoo felt anger grow in his chest. What about the Atari? They used to be peaceful people. Not anymore. They have formed something called the Talon Empire. They attack, trade ships, and take whatever they want. 3 species have asked for council protection, but the council does nothing. Captain Taiman Lee joined them, carrying a datapad filled with military information. It gets worse, Commander. The constructs have started building automated war machines. They send these machines to take over planets without any living beings, controlling them. How many species are still independent? Only 7 out of 23 that we used to know. The rest have been conquered, enslaved, or destroyed by the major powers. Dr. So Young pulled up a holographic map of the galaxy. Red areas showed Vrex territory, blue showed Zephyrian control, yellow marked Atari raids, and gray indicated constructs expansion. Very little green remained for free worlds. Look at this, she said, pointing to areas near the galactic rim. These sectors have gone completely dark. No communications, no trade, no signs of life at all. Hyunwoo studied the map carefully. The dark areas formed a pattern that made his blood run cold. They were exactly where humanity's deep space warning sensors had been placed 3 centuries ago. Have our monitoring stations detected anything in those regions? That is the problem, sir. Our monitoring stations have stopped transmitting. All of them went silent in the same order, starting from the furthest edge of the galaxy. Meanwhile, on the Vrex capital world, Admiral Koss received a message that made him question everything he thought he knew. His intelligence officers had been studying the human transmission that called for the council meeting. Sir, said his chief analyst, a thin Vrex with nervous movements. We have analyzed the transmission frequency and signal pattern. It matches records from the old archives from before humans disappeared. What are you saying? Either someone has perfectly recreated 300-year-old human technology, or actual humans sent this message. Koss walked to the large window in his office and looked out at his massive fleet. If humans still exist, where have they been hiding? We have explored every system in this galaxy. Perhaps they left the galaxy entirely, sir. The idea seemed impossible. No species had the technology to travel between galaxies. The distances were too great, and the empty space between galaxies was filled with dangerous things that destroyed anything that tried to cross. Sir, said another officer as he entered the room, we have received word from our exploration teams in the outer rim sectors. What news? 7 more star systems have gone completely silent, sir. Our ships cannot find any trace of the civilizations that lived there. It is as if they simply vanished. Koss turned away from the window. Vanished how? We do not know, sir. There are no signs of war, no debris fields, no distress signals. The planets are still there, but they are completely lifeless. Even the bacteria in the soil is gone. Back in space, Lieutenant Daeho's spy ship had moved on to observe the Zephyrian homeworld. These beings looked like walking crystal formations that sparkled with inner light. Their cities were beautiful structures of living crystal that grew from the ground like impossible trees. Mira, said Daeho as he watched the alien activities below. Are you recording their military preparations? Yes. They are also gathering their fleets. But look at this strange thing. She pointed to her scanner display. They are building some kind of massive weapon in orbit around their homeworld. What kind of weapon? I do not know. It is bigger than anything we have seen before. The energy readings are enormous. Dr. So Young's voice came through their communication system from the human base. Both of you need to be very careful. We are detecting unusual activity from all the major powers. They are all preparing for something big. What do you think they are planning? Asked Daeho. We believe they think the human message is the beginning of an invasion. They are getting ready to fight us. Mira shook her head sadly. They do not understand that we are trying to help them. No, they do not. 3 centuries of stories about violent, aggressive humans have made them afraid of us. They remember us as warmongers instead of peacekeepers. On their hidden world, Admiral Subin Kang met with her senior officers in a secure conference room. The holographic display showed intelligence reports from all their spy ships throughout the galaxy. The situation is clear, she said to the assembled commanders. The galaxy is preparing for war against us before we have even revealed ourselves. Meanwhile, the real threat continues to advance from the outer rim. General Bo-Ra Shin, a tough woman with scars on her hands from years of military service, spoke up. Admiral, our deep space sensors are detecting massive energy signatures moving through the void between galaxies. Whatever is coming, it is much larger than we expected. How much time do we have? Based on current movement patterns, the advanced scouts will reach inhabited systems within 6 months. Admiral Subin stood and walked to the viewing screen that showed their beautiful hidden world. 300 years ago, humanity had been forced to choose between staying and fighting an impossible war, or leaving to prepare for the real battle that was coming. Send word to Ambassador Jaewon, she ordered. It is time for him to make contact with the Council. We cannot wait any longer. Ma'am, said Commander Wu Jin Yang, leader of their elite fighter squadrons. What if they refuse to listen? What if they attack our ambassador? Then we will have to show them that we did not spend 3 centuries hiding in fear. We spent 3 centuries becoming something they cannot imagine. The Admiral looked out at the stars and thought about the species that had once been humanity's friends and allies. Soon they would learn that humans had not disappeared because they were weak. They had disappeared because they were strong enough to sacrifice everything for the greater good. The Galactic Council chamber had not seen such chaos in over a century. Representatives from 17 different species filled the massive circular room, their voices raised in argument and confusion. The message requesting this emergency meeting had arrived 3 days ago, and no one could agree on what it meant. Ambassador Zeltron of the Zephyrians stood at his crystal podium, his body glowing with angry red light. This is clearly a trick by our enemies. Humans have been extinct for 300 years. Everyone knows this fact. Perhaps, said Senator Quill of the Atari, her bright feathers ruffled with worry. But what if the message is real? What if humans have somehow survived? The construct's representative, Unit 457, spoke in its mechanical voice. Probability of human survival calculated at 0.03%. Recommend treating message as hostile deception. At the center of the chamber, Chancellor Mordak tried to bring order to the meeting. He was an old being from a peaceful species called the Walari, with 4 arms and wise blue eyes. For 50 years he had led the Galactic Council through many difficult decisions. My fellow representatives, he said in a calm voice that somehow carried over all the noise. We must approach this situation with careful thought. The message was broadcast on frequencies that match human technology from 3 centuries ago. Admiral Koss of the Vrex Empire slammed his clawed hand on his podium. Human technology was primitive and weak. Any species could copy their simple signals. Then explain this, said Chancellor Mordak as he activated the chamber's main display screen. The message was broadcast simultaneously from 47 different locations across the galaxy. No known species has the ability to coordinate such a transmission. The room fell silent as the representatives studied the data. The transmission points formed a perfect pattern that surrounded the entire galactic core. It would have required technology far beyond anything the Council possessed. Furthermore, continued the Chancellor, our scientists have analyzed the signal encoding. It uses mathematical principles that we do not understand. The transmission method itself appears to violate our understanding of physics. In deep space, far from the Council chamber, a single human ship approached the neutral station called Harmony Point. This station had been built 3 centuries ago as a meeting place for diplomatic negotiations. It was located in empty space between the territories of different species. Ambassador Jaewon Nam stood on the bridge of his vessel, watching the station grow larger on the viewing screen. He was a distinguished man, with silver hair and calm eyes who had spent decades studying alien cultures and languages. Sir, said his aide, a young woman named Ensign Hanako, the Council has agreed to meet with us, but they are demanding that we prove our identity first. How do they want us to prove we are human? They want us to provide genetic samples and answer questions about human history that only real humans would know. Ambassador Jaewon smiled slightly. They still think we are the same primitive species that left the galaxy 3 centuries ago. This should be interesting. His ship was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. It appeared to be made from a single piece of metal that changed color as it moved. The hull seemed to shift and flow like liquid, but remained completely solid. No sensors could penetrate its surface to see what was inside. "Sir," said Commander Yoonji Lim from the navigation station, "long-range sensors are detecting massive fleet movements throughout the galaxy. Every major power has positioned warships near Harmony Point." "How many ships total?" "Over 5,000, sir. The Vrex have brought their entire battle fleet. The Zephyrians have deployed their crystal ships. Even the peaceful Wallari have sent military vessels." Jaewon studied the tactical display that showed the positions of all the alien fleets. They had formed a sphere around Harmony Point with their weapons aimed at the small station. If negotiations went wrong, the firepower concentrated here could destroy entire solar systems. "They are afraid," he said quietly. 300 years of stories about violent humans have made them expect us to return as conquerors. "Sir, incoming transmission from the station. They are requesting permission to board our ship and conduct security scans." "Denied. Tell them we will meet at the station as originally planned. One human representative as requested." On Harmony Point Station, the council representatives waited in the main conference room. The chamber was designed to accommodate the different environmental needs of various species. The Aquarians sat in tanks of water. The Siliconians required higher temperatures, and the Vrex needed thicker atmospheric pressure. Chancellor Mordak reviewed the questions that had been prepared to test the identity of whoever claimed to be human. They included details about Earth's history, human culture, and technical specifications of old human technology. "Chancellor," said his assistant, a nervous Wallari named Benik, "our sensors cannot detect the approaching human ship. It disappeared from our screens 5 minutes ago." "Disappeared? How is that possible?" "We do not know, sir. One moment it was there, the next it was gone. But the shuttle bay sensors indicate that something has just landed." Before anyone could respond, the conference room doors opened with a soft whisper. Ambassador Jaewon walked into the chamber alone, wearing a simple black diplomatic uniform. He appeared completely human, but there was something different about him that made the alien representatives uncomfortable. He moved with perfect confidence, showing no fear despite being surrounded by beings who could kill him instantly. His eyes seemed to see everything at once, and when he smiled, it was with genuine warmth that somehow made the tension in the room decrease. "Honored representatives of the Galactic Council," he said in perfect standard Galactic, though his accent carried hints of dozens of different languages. "I am Ambassador Jaewon Nam of the Human Federation. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting." Admiral Koss stood up quickly, his scales rattling with agitation. "Prove that you are really human. Answer our questions." "Of course." Jaewon took a seat at the table that had been prepared for him. "I am ready for your test." Chancellor Mordak asked the first question. "What was the name of the first human to leave Earth and travel to another star system?" "Captain Sarah Chen aboard the colony ship New Horizon, in the year 2157. She established the first human settlement on Kepler 442b, which we called New Eden." The representatives looked at each other with surprise. The answer was correct, but it had been given instantly, without any hesitation. "What was the primary energy source used by early human starships?" asked Senator Quill. "Fusion reactors powered by hydrogen and deuterium, with antimatter boosters for faster-than-light travel." Again, the answer was immediate and accurate. Chancellor, Mordak asked several more questions about human history, culture, and technology. Every answer was perfect. "Very well," said the Chancellor finally. "Your knowledge appears genuine, but that does not explain where humans have been for 3 centuries. Ambassador Jaewon's expression became serious. "We have been preparing." "Preparing for what?" "For the return of an ancient threat that this galaxy has forgotten. 300 years ago, human scientists discovered evidence of something terrible approaching from the void between galaxies. We brought this evidence to the Council." "I remember no such evidence," said Ambassador Zeltron. The Council dismissed our warnings as fantasy. You called us fearmongers and primitive thinkers. When we realized that the galaxy would not prepare for what was coming, we made a difficult choice. What choice? We left. Not because we were weak, but because someone needed to survive to protect the galaxy when the time came. Admiral Koss laughed harshly. Protect us? With what? Your species was barely capable of interstellar travel when you disappeared. Ambassador J1 stood up slowly. Perhaps it would be better to show you rather than tell you. He pressed a small device on his wrist. Immediately, every scanner and sensor on Harmony Point Station registered impossible readings. Outside the viewing windows, space itself seemed to shimmer and bend. One by one, human ships began to appear out of nowhere. They materialized like ghosts becoming solid, their hulls reflecting light in ways that hurt to look at directly. Each vessel was beautiful and terrible at the same time, clearly built with technology that transcended anything the Council had ever seen. Within minutes, over 100 human ships surrounded the station. They had not been detected approaching, because they existed partially outside normal space-time until they chose to fully materialize. The Council representatives stared in shocked silence. These ships made their own most advanced vessels look like primitive toys. We have been busy, said Ambassador J1 quietly. And we returned just in time. The threat we warned you about 3 centuries ago has finally awakened. The Devourers are coming, and this galaxy is not prepared to face them alone. The name Devourers meant nothing to most of the Council representatives, but Chancellor Mordak felt ice form in his blood. He was old enough to remember the ancient stories from his people's mythology. Stories about creatures from the dark, between stars that consumed entire worlds. You speak of legends, said Ambassador Zeltron, though his crystal body had stopped glowing with anger. The Devourers are myths told to frighten children. Dr. Young Sik Han materialized in the conference room using the same technology that had brought the human fleet into normal space. He was a middle-aged man with tired eyes who carried the weight of terrible knowledge. In his hands, he held a device that projected holographic images into the center of the table. 300 years ago, our deep space exploration teams found this, he said as images appeared in the air above them. The holograms showed the remains of what had once been a galaxy. Where billions of stars should have existed, there was only empty darkness. Here and there, a few dying suns flickered like candles in an infinite night. This galaxy died 2 million years ago, Dr. Youngsik continued. Every star system, every planet, every form of life, consumed completely. Our analysis showed that something had drained all energy from every celestial body. Senator Quill's feathers rustled with fear. What could possibly do such a thing? We found the answer at the edge of that dead galaxy. The Devourers left behind one of their feeding stations. The holographic display changed to show a structure that defied understanding. It looked like a living mountain made of black metal and organic tissue. Thousands of tentacle-like appendages reached out from its surface, each one the size of a space station. The Devourers are not a species as we understand the term, explained Dr. Youngsik. They are something far older and more terrible. They exist in the void between galaxies, feeding on the life force of entire civilizations. Admiral Koss tried to maintain his aggressive attitude, but his voice shook slightly. Even if such creatures exist, they would be too far away to threaten us. That is what we hoped 3 centuries ago, but our monitoring stations have been tracking their approach ever since. Captain Yoonji Lim stepped forward. She was a brave woman who had spent decades exploring the dangerous void at the galaxy's edge. Show them the recent data, Doctor. The holographic display changed again. This time it showed a map of their galaxy with small red dots marking the positions of dead star systems. 17 systems along our galactic rim have gone completely silent in the past 6 months, said Captain Yoonji. Our investigation teams found the same thing in each location. Planets stripped of all life, stars drained of their energy. Impossible, said Unit 457, the construct's representative. Our sensors would detect such massive energy consumption, Yurdiri. Sensors cannot detect the Devourers until they choose to reveal themselves. Watch this recording from our last monitoring station before it was destroyed. The hologram showed a view of space that looked normal at first. Stars twinkled peacefully in the darkness. Then the image began to change. The stars started to dim and flicker. One by one, they went dark. Something massive was moving between them, but it remained invisible. Suddenly, a shape appeared that made every being in the room gasp with horror. It was alive, a creature the size of a moon, with a surface covered in mouths and eyes. Tentacles longer than continents reached out toward a nearby planet. Where they touched, the world began to wither and die. "That is a scout," said Dr. Youngsik quietly. "The main force is still approaching from the void." Chancellor Mordak found his voice after several minutes of shocked silence. "How many of them are coming?" "We estimate at least 50,000 scouts, followed by the primary swarm. The total number could be in the millions." The conference room fell completely silent. Even Admiral Koss seemed to have lost his appetite for argument. The reality of what they faced was beyond the worst. "Nightmares of any species, what do they want?" asked Senator Quill in a small voice. "Everything," replied Ambassador J1. "They consume all forms of energy, stellar radiation, planetary cores, and most importantly, the life force of living beings. An entire galaxy's worth of civilization represents food that could sustain them for millions of years." "How do we fight something like that?" asked Chancellor Mordak. "That is why humanity spent 3 centuries in exile. We have been preparing for this war." Dr. Youngsik activated his device again. The holographic display showed technical schematics that hurt to look at directly. The mathematics involved seemed to bend reality around the edges. "We have developed weapons that can disrupt their energy absorption abilities. Our ships can phase in and out of normal space-time, making us difficult for them to target. Most importantly, we have learned to coordinate our attacks across multiple dimensions." Admiral Koss leaned forward despite his fear. "You are saying humans now possess technology that can harm these creatures?" "We wounded one of their scouts 6 months ago during our first test engagement. It retreated, but not before we learned valuable information about their weaknesses." "Show us," demanded Ambassador Zeltron. The hologram changed to display footage from that battle. A human ship no larger than a fighter craft faced one of the moon-sized Devourer scouts. The human vessel seemed impossibly small and fragile compared to the ancient horror it confronted. Then the human ship fired its weapon. A beam of pure white energy struck the Devourer, and something amazing happened. The creature's feeding tentacles withered and pulled back. Its multiple eyes closed in what looked like pain. For the first time in millions of years, something had hurt a Devourer. "How is this possible?" whispered Senator Quill. "We call it quantum disruption technology," explained Dr. Youngsik. "It attacks the fundamental forces that allow the Devourers to absorb energy from other sources." Commander Seokjin Ryu appeared in the room using the same materialization technology. He was a stern man with scars on his face from years of preparing for this war. "Doctor, our deep space sensors are detecting movement in the Andros sector." "More scouts?" "No, sir. This signature is much larger. We believe the main swarm has begun its final approach." Dr. Youngsik's face went pale. "How much time do we have?" "Based on current speed and trajectory, they will reach the core worlds within 8 weeks. The council representatives looked at each other with growing panic. 8 weeks to prepare for an enemy that had destroyed entire galaxies. "What do you need from us?" asked Chancellor Mordak. Ambassador J1 stood up and looked around the room at the faces of beings whose species had once been humanity's friends. "We need you to trust us. 3 centuries ago, you dismissed our warnings. Now you must let us lead the defense of everything we all hold dear." "And if we refuse?" asked Admiral Koss, though his voice lacked its earlier aggression. "Then you will face the Devourers alone, with weapons and tactics that cannot harm them." Outside, the conference room windows, the human fleet waited in perfect formation. Each ship represented centuries of preparation, sacrifice, and determination. They had returned not as conquerors, but as guardians. "We need immediate access to all military forces in the galaxy," continued Ambassador J1. "We need your manufacturing capabilities to produce our weapon systems. Most importantly, we need every species to work together as we once did." Senator Quill spoke first. The Atari will follow human leadership in this matter. One by one, the other representatives agreed. Even Admiral Koss nodded reluctantly. Very well, said Chancellor Mordak. By emergency decree of the Galactic Council, humanity is granted supreme military authority to coordinate our defense against the Devourer threat. Ambassador J1 bowed respectfully. We will not fail you, not this time. But as he spoke those words, he thought about the reports from the Outer Rim. The Devourers were not just approaching, they were accelerating. The main battle would come sooner than anyone expected. And even with 3 centuries of preparation, humanity was not certain they could win. The next few weeks would determine whether galactic civilization survived, or whether their galaxy would join the countless others that existed now only as empty darkness between the stars. The war came faster than anyone expected. Fleet Admiral Dong Hyun Seo stood on the bridge of the massive human flagship called Unity, watching as reality itself seemed to tear open at the edge of the galaxy. Through the wounds in space-time, the Devourers poured into normal space like a plague of living nightmares. Admiral Dong Hyun was a tall man with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much death. For 30 years he had prepared for this moment, knowing that humanity's survival and the fate of every living being in the galaxy depended on the next few hours. Report, he ordered calmly, though his heart raced with the weight of command. Sir, said Captain Min-Soo Oh from the tactical station, we count over 200,000 enemy units entering our galaxy. They are advancing on multiple fronts toward the core worlds. The main viewing screen showed a sight that would have driven most beings insane with terror. The Devourers came in every size from fighter craft to creatures larger than moons. Some looked like massive jellyfish made of living metal. Others resembled gigantic spiders with energy weapons instead of legs. All of them shared the same hunger for the life force of entire civilizations. Status of the Allied fleets? All 17 species have positioned their ships according to our battle plan, sir. Total Allied forces number 43,000 vessels. Admiral Dong Hyun nodded grimly. The numbers were not encouraging. The Devourers outnumbered them almost 5 to 1. But humanity had not spent 3 centuries in exile to fight a fair battle. Activate the Stellar Forge, he ordered. Dr. Hyejin Bae looked up from her science station with worried eyes. She was a brilliant woman who had spent her entire life developing the weapons that could hurt the ancient enemy. Sir, the device is untested at this scale. If it fails, we all die anyway. Begin the activation sequence. Far behind the battle lines, a device the size of a space station began to power up. The Stellar Forge was humanity's ultimate weapon, built from technology that seemed more like magic than science. It could reignite dying stars, create energy, barriers across vast distances, and most importantly, generate fields that prevented the Devourers from absorbing energy from their surroundings. Commander Hyunwoo Park led the first wave of human fighters toward the advancing enemy. His small squadron of 12 ships faced a swarm of Devourer scouts that numbered in the thousands. To any observer, it looked like suicide. Remember your training, he said to his pilots over the communication system. These creatures have never faced quantum disruption weapons. They do not understand what we can do. His ship, barely larger than an old-style fighter, carried weapons that could wound beings the size of planets. As the first Devourer scout reached out with its feeding tentacles, Hyunwoo fired. The white beam struck the creature, and something beautiful happened. The ancient horror, which had fed on civilizations for millions of years, suddenly found itself unable to absorb energy from the matter around it. Its tentacles withered, its multiple eyes closed in confusion and pain. Target confirmed destroyed, reported Lieutenant Daeho Choi from his position in the squadron. The quantum disruption field is working perfectly. But even as they celebrated their first victory, the true scope of the battle became clear. For every Devourer scout they destroyed, 10 more took its place. The enemy advanced like a tide of living death, consuming everything in their path. On the bridge of Unity, Admiral Dong Hyun watched as the Allied fleets engaged the enemy across a front that stretched across light years of space. The wreck ships fought with savage determination, their powerful weapons carving through smaller devourers. The crystalline Zephyrian vessels created beautiful light shows as they fired their energy beams. Even the peaceful Wellari had brought their most powerful ships to the battle, but conventional weapons could only slow the devourers down. They could not truly hurt them. Only human quantum disruption technology could do permanent damage to the ancient enemy. "Sir," called Captain Minsu from his station. "The enemy is adapting faster than we anticipated. Some of the larger creatures are showing resistance to our weapons." "How is that possible?" Dr. Haijin looked up from her scanner readings with alarm. "Admiral, I am detecting massive energy buildup from their largest units. I think they are preparing to feed on our quantum disruption fields themselves." Admiral Dong Hyun felt his blood turn cold. If the Devourers could absorb the energy from humanity's most advanced weapons, the battle was already lost. "Time to Stellar Forge activation?" 15 minutes, sir." "We do not have 15 minutes. Dr. Haijin, can you overload the quantum disruption generators? Create a massive burst that might give us an opening?" "Yes, sir, but it would leave our ships vulnerable until we can recharge the systems." "Do it." Throughout the human fleet, every quantum disruption weapon began to glow with increasing intensity. The energy buildup was visible to the naked eye as pure white light gathered around each human ship. Commander Wu Jin Yang, leader of the elite fighter squadrons, led his pilots in a desperate charge toward the largest devourer creature. It was the size of a small moon with thousands of feeding tentacles that reached out like the arms of an octopus made from nightmares. "All ships, fire on my mark," he ordered as they approached the creature. "Mark every human ship in the battle," fired simultaneously. The combined quantum disruption burst created a flash of light that could be seen from neighboring star systems. When the brightness faded, something impossible had happened. The massive devourer creature was retreating. Its tentacles had pulled back, and several of its feeding mouths had actually closed. For the first time in its millions of years of existence, it had encountered something that could not only hurt it, but could prevent it from feeding. But the victory came at a price. With their quantum disruption systems recharging, the human ships were temporarily defenseless. Smaller devourer scouts swarmed toward them like sharks sensing blood in the water. That was when the Allied fleets showed what they were made of. Admiral Koss led his Vrex battleships in a charge that would be remembered for centuries. The crystal ships of the Zephyrians created barriers of light that protected the human vessels. Even the mechanical constructs fought with determination that their programming had never shown before. "Admiral," called Dr. Haijin with excitement in her voice, "the Stellar Forge is ready." Activated immediately, light years away from the battle, the massive device began to function. Energy poured out from it in waves that traveled faster than light itself. As the waves passed through space, something amazing began to happen. The Devourers found that they could no longer absorb energy from the stars around them. The quantum fields generated by the Stellar Forge created a barrier that prevented their feeding abilities from working. For creatures that had fed continuously for millions of years, the sudden inability to consume energy was like starvation. One by one, the smaller devourers began to retreat toward the edge of the galaxy. Even the massive creatures that commanded, the swarms turned away from the advancing Allied fleets. But the largest devourer, a creature so ancient and powerful that it had consumed entire galaxy clusters, refused to retreat. It advanced toward the Stellar Forge itself, intending to destroy humanity's ultimate weapon. "Sir," reported Captain Minsu with urgency in his voice, "the primary devourer is approaching the forge. If it destroys our device, the quantum barrier will collapse." Admiral Dong Hyun made the hardest decision of his life. "All human ships follow me. We make our final stand at the forge." The human fleet, battered but not broken, formed up around their greatest creation. They faced an enemy that dwarfed planets, a creature from the dark between galaxies that had never known defeat. Captain Taemin Lee, now commanding his own ship in the final battle, spoke words that would echo through history. "For 3 centuries we prepared for this moment. We will not fail." The final battle lasted only minutes, but it felt like hours. Every human ship poured its quantum disruption energy into the ancient creature. Dr. He-Jin overloaded the stellar forge itself, turning their greatest creation into a weapon. When the light faded, the primary devourer was gone. Destroyed completely, its energy scattered across the galaxy. The remaining creatures of its swarm, suddenly leaderless and unable to feed, fled back into the void between galaxies. The battle was won, but the cost had been enormous. Half the human fleet was destroyed, and many allied ships had been lost, as well. But galactic civilization had survived. In the weeks that followed, the species that had once dismissed humanity as primitive warmongers worked together to rebuild what had been damaged. The Galactic Council was reformed with Earth as its capital, and humanity took its place as the guardians of galactic peace. Commander Hyun-woo stood on the observation deck of the new Unity station, watching ships from 17 different worlds, working side by side. Dr. So-young joined him, her eyes bright with hope for the first time in decades. "Do you think they will remember this time?" she asked. "Yes," Hyun-woo replied, looking out at the stars that still shone because humanity had been willing to sacrifice everything to protect them. "The galaxy will never forget us again." And in the dark void between galaxies, the surviving devourers waited and watched, knowing that for the first time in millions of years, they had